Boys. Welcome back to the show for men. I'm your host, G-Man. Today, we're going to talk about the reason why modern women don't grow up and why many modern women, not all, but many modern women act the way they do, especially in a dating context. So this video is by a YouTuber called Lynn Everly. Go and check her out. I'll put the link to the original video in the description. All right, let's jump straight in. And I just want to let you guys know there's going to be some ranting going on here today. So if you're up for a rant, stick around.
There are so many videos online about why men are so childish and don't seem to grow up anymore, but I think that women are just as immature nowadays. The symptoms just show up in a different way. When men don't grow up, we call them lazy, unmotivated, or weak. In women, it often...
All right. Trigger warning for me. This is something I always found was an interesting social psyop. That if a man doesn't follow the script, if he doesn't do what he's been indoctrinated to do, which is generally get a job at said company, stay there forever, pay your taxes, be a good boy, get married, so buy into that whole institution, have a few kids, so you're then continuing to generate and produce and populate the earth with more taxpayers. If you don't do that, then by societal standards, you are immature, lazy, unmotivated. You're not a man. You're not a man if you don't do what everybody else does. And women will say, he's a Peter Pan, he's never growing up. I've heard this heaps of times. I've even had it said to me a lot of times. Time to grow up, G-man. Time to grow up in the next phase of your life. Just so you guys know, I would never be growing up. This is the life I've picked. I love my life. I'm a very, very happy man. Every guy I know who has grown up, let's put that in quotes, grown up, is a walking husk. He does not get much time to enjoy the fruits of any labour or sacrifices that they make in their lives. And it's just the way that men are treated in society and what's expected of them. Women will say to men, they'll shame men. He doesn't want to grow up, he's emotionally unavailable, blah, 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 because you can see, you boys who haven't done it or have done it but aren't doing it again, you can see or know that what you're getting is just absolutely not worth it. And so you're emotionally unavailable. You're a commitment phobe. You're a scared little boy. We've all heard that BS. The amount of times I've been on dating apps talking to women, or even getting them off the dating apps or on the phone, and they start realising I'm not going to commit, and I might say something, one of my opinions, and I really rub them up the wrong way, and they'll just flip around and say, well, it's no wonder, G-man. It's no wonder your wife left you brutally. It's no wonder no one loves you. It's no wonder you're alone. Guys, put in the comments if you've copped that. If you don't go with the narrative, if you go against what a woman's saying and her perspective, you'll cop something along those lines. I know now why you're single. I love that stuff. I love it. As I said, guys, I'm in a mood. It's going to be on.
shows up in entitlement or promiscuous behavior, which is even more dangerous in my opinion, and I'll tell you why. The answer is actually very simple, really. It's because entitlement and promiscuity are often glorified in our current Western society.
Whoa.
So immature women are basically rewarded for their behavior, while the
You got to think about this. I'm going to be stopping. I'm not watching this whole video, so if people complain and say I stop and I'm ranting and shit, that's the channel. I talk, I give my perspective, and we use these videos as talking points. If you want to watch the video, the whole thing, it's in the link. The video link's in the description. Just go watch it. All right. So let's talk about accountability for women. And she was saying that it manifests in, not growing up and not being mature. It manifests in entitled behaviour and promiscuity. I'm not so much sure about linking it with promiscuity. I think it's a different topic, and I'm all about promiscuity, so I have no issue with it. But let's talk about entitlement. I can talk about it from a few different perspectives. Okay, let me put my businessman hat on. I work in the corporate world, guys, and I can tell you that I have noticed, this is not all women, and I'm not talking about anyone in particular, but as a generalization, women expect the world of the places that they work. They want to have this meaningful existence where they feel like they're adding to society and changing society with the work that they do. When it comes to getting promotions and going through that whole performance review cycle, you can see the nature of women. They stab each other in the back and in the neck and all that sort of stuff. They jump up and down when they don't get something that they might want, whether they've earned it or not. And that comes into the point of entitlement. So why did I talk about the work thing? But the reality is these two are interlinked. You got the work entitlement. So I'm talking about professional women. That's what this case is. So you guys who might work in the corporate world might be able to resonate with this. But it's expecting promotions for turning up, for being doing bare minimum, doing what the job description says, but maybe doing it for a year or two as opposed to just going over and above and just smashing it out of the park. And a lot of women actually do get promoted for doing what is on the job description, not going over and above, just doing it, which then feeds into more entitlement down the line. And then we have entitlement in life in general. Now, I'm not talking about all women, and there's different cultures and women are brought up differently, but let's talk about Western women. Let's talk about women in Australia, America, UK, where I think all the shit will be the same. With men, they believe that they are entitled to a Frankenstein's monster of a man, being you're different parts of different fantasy men all put into one and stitched together. That's one thing. That's the sense of entitlement there. But there's also a discussion point on accountability. Most men just don't have the balls to say what they need to say, what they would say to other men, and giving firm, strong-handed, but fair feedback. And so they never hear it their whole lives. And so when they do hear it, they will jump up and down. It's the patriarchy. It's misogyny. You're a white supremacist, G-man, for saying that. Just pull out whatever insult they can for telling them the truth and keeping them accountable for a particular action. I'm talking specifically here in relationships or just dating in general. The amount of nasty things I've been called because women asked me for my opinion and I gave it to them and they didn't like it. And so then because they didn't like my opinion, then I was abused. I was verbally abused for doing what was asked of me, giving them an opinion. Now, they might not like it, but I don't sugarcoat shit. All right, let's keep going. Otherwise, I'll talk for 4 hours on this point.
Mature male traits like laziness and weakness are often more frowned upon. We live in a society where women are told that they need to focus on their career and on themselves. There is almost a taboo on taking on traditional responsibilities like long-term relationships or having children. It seems to me that our modern society has removed most of the natural pressures that used to push women into adulthood and has replaced them with a selfish me-first mindset. Women used to have children at a much younger age than they're having now. Having children gives people responsibility and it forces them to grow up and live for something other than themselves. So now that women are having children much later in their lives or are not having children at all, the transition from being a little party girl to being a responsible adult is happening much later in life. On top of that, platforms like TikTok and Instagram promote attention-seeking behavior instead of self-development. Young women promote a
How fantastic. That's a really good point. That makes a really good point. Now, I don't believe all people should have kids, and all women should have kids, and if you don't have kids, you don't have responsibility. So that's not an opinion of mine. I think women secretly do judge other women who don't have kids. Just a bit of food for thought. I live a child-free life, and I'm very happy with it. Now, who knows? It may change. I may have kids out there. Who knows? They haven't come knocking on the door yet. But I do that through choice, and I have no issue or feel like a child would add responsibility to me. I think it would add significant burden on my lifestyle, time, finances, which is why I've chosen not to pursue that. So I don't totally agree about shaming women for not having kids. Like, they can do whatever they want, and everyone's entitled to live the life they want. If they want to focus on their career, good on them. Where I like to hang shit on women who do those things, but then they turn around and complain about the outcomes of the choices that they've made. Now, if you're a career woman and you don't want kids and you want to have a high-flying lifestyle, that's cool. Like, I reckon that's great, actually. But then want to turn around when you're 40 years old and go on IVF and do all that sort of stuff, that's when I start hanging shit on you. Because it's cause and effect and accountability.
Promiscuous lifestyle of sex and partying to other women, and this keeps the cycle going. It fools them into thinking that they are maintaining their youth in this way, while it is actually holding them back in life without even realizing it. And not only women, of course, a lot of people like the individualistic, hedonistic lifestyle these days because people think that it keeps them closer to their youthfulness. But this makes no sense to me at all. Just because you're not maturing psychologically does not mean your body stops aging. Take care of yourself and your body by prioritizing sleep, a healthy diet, and exercising, instead of partying and drinking. Because those things have actually proven to keep you younger and healthier for longer. Resisting...
Wow, that's some groundbreaking. That came out of nowhere, didn't it? It was pretty out of context. Maybe she's going to try and flog a sponsor or something here. But she's not wrong on that. Have you guys not seen women... So, guys, I'm middle-aged now. 40. I've officially hit middle age, I'll say. There's no denying it now. When I was younger, say when I was in my early 20s, and you know what it's like, you got the friendship group and you got a few people who just like to party just a bit extra hard. There's a few girls that were part of the group and they were pretty attractive back in the day. Like, all the guys were after them and all that sort of thing. And they were partying hard. They were going out Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday nights, getting pissed and smoking and whatever it is. That catches up with you pretty quick. I actually have seen or bumped into a couple of these girls probably over the last couple of years here and there. There was one I bumped into her in the CBD. I didn't even recognise her. Like, she looked completely different, completely haggard. Like, that life catches up with everybody, male or female. It's an interesting point that she makes there. All right. Guys, halfway through, if you enjoyed the content, please sub to the channel. Aiming for 1,000 subs. Let's try and get there with this video. That'll be fantastic. And also, guys, the best way to help me and this channel get up and running is just to watch the videos through. I know some of you might not like being asked or reminded, but the best way to help me, guys, that's how you do help me get my videos pushed out. And in terms of notifications, put on the notification bell for the subscription and so you see all my videos drop. All right, let's keep going.
To psychologically grow up will only bring misery into your life. And of course, there are traits of youth that you want to embrace throughout your life as a woman, like purity, vitality, curiosity, and playfulness. I'm not saying at all that women should abandon these traits as they get older. What I'm saying is that while keeping these traits for as long as possible, you should also develop emotional and psychological maturity. Because what worries me is that nowadays, a lot of women, despite aging, are stuck in the mindset of a teenage girl. I think a lot of women don't even know what it means to be mature anymore because of the toxic feminist message. So...
That's a great point. And I have to agree with her on that one. The amount of women I went out with on dates had just had no idea about the responsibilities of life. I wanted praise for doing the bare minimum, like, oh, I live by myself, run my own house, I do my own washing, whatever it is, pay my mortgage. Awesome. That is literally bare minimum existence. You're not a boss babe. It does not make you a boss babe to do those things. But she's talking about the teenage girl attitude. And I think it very much is... Look, I don't think it's so much the feminist movement. I think women have always been that way. They've always wanted to be treated special, have been felt over entitled to having men roll the red carpet out for them, spend money on them, take them out, etc. And even women that are 60 and 70 years old probably expect that. Or, I absolutely can't see that changing. That's just a maturity thing that never develops in women. They always want to be treated special. They always want shit. They always want you to feed them. They're like little gremlins. Have you noticed every time you're going out with women, they always want to go to different restaurants and always talking about wanting to eat food and getting different takeaways and all this sort of shit? Little gremlins you've got to keep feeding every few hours. But you think about, and I agree with the point that she made about, I think social media, you got these women dancing around on TikTok like they're 12, but they're 35 years old. Doing little hand signals and little cutesy little dances and posting all about their lives on there for the world to see. I think social media has definitely affected the development of some women, because now a lot of women now have the celebrity syndrome where they think that they're a main character in the world. And they might be the main character in their own story or our own main characters. What I'm talking about is they believe they're a main character in everybody else's story and that they matter and no one gives a shit about them. That's why these TikToks, they're a real great insight into the female mindset.
What does it mean to be a mature woman? In my opinion, it's the ability to deal with reality, mastering your emotions, being aware of your own limitations, and having resilience. Being mature often means doing things that you don't want to do, just because you know it's good for you or the people around you in the long run. This is, in my opinion, a much healthier mindset, but it's not promoted at all in our current society. It seems to be quite the opposite, where we're mostly promoting entitlement and victim mentality. And this leads to a lot of immature women who feel obligated to nobody because they see themselves as the center of the work. Because
you see that one? That was the boss babe there. That's probably a point that I'll raise. It's like I'll talk about more from a work standpoint. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen or experienced this or even thought these things but don't want to say them. When they talk about we need more CEOs in the boardroom that are women, or we need more female representation at the executive level. Okay. What, just because you're a female you get a Guernsey? Like, you got to earn that shit. And the harsh reality for these women is there's less of a representation at those particular levels because women just won't do what men will do. Men are grinders. Men put themselves through punishment, pain, and go to work every day and fight to compete against other men and perform. I'm not saying women don't do that, but men, like, they have to do that your whole life. So eventually, if you keep doing that and you're very good at that over time, you're going to get somewhere. You're going to elevate. I'm not saying there's enough room for everybody, but that's how these men get the opportunities to do that. They give everything to the company, to the job, whatever it is. So women, they want to go on maternity leave for a year and come back and still get... Like, that was bullshit. I've seen people go on maternity leave for a year and come back and get promoted a month later. You weren't even there. So it's more of a societal issue around this entitlement. About this whole quota and DEI, diversity and inclusiveness and all of that. Now, I don't care if people are gay and trannies or whatever, or women or what. If you're a tranny and you're the CEO, good on you. Like, you earned it. If you earned it. Anyway, I won't go down that road. But you guys know what I'm talking about here.
That is what they're told in all the toxic TikTok videos. They are in an algorithm that validates their own toxic and self-destructive self-image. And they often don't consider how their actions affect the people around them. And some immature women tend to hate other women just for existing, and they can be ruthless, which is not fun to deal with, trust me. So it's no wonder that it's very hard to maintain healthy relationships with immature women. If a woman can't take responsibility for her actions, that is, in my opinion, the biggest sign that she's immature. If you want to...
Well, if you think about it, guys, every horror story that I've heard from a divorce where a man describes just some of the absolute BS he's had to put up with, that is due to having an immature woman you've married. I did the exact same thing. I saw the signs, but I did it anyway, and I paid for it. We marry these women who carry on like teenagers, and then we expect them to grow up and have a different result when they decide to fly the coop and rain down fire from hell on us. We expect them to not do that and to be reasonable and being able to be discussed with and bargained with. You can't. Guys, tell me if you've been through a divorce or a separation that's had to go through a family court. Tell me now what success you had actually reaching out to a woman's humanity and trying to negotiate or trying to reason. There'd be very few who are capable of doing that. Every guy I know has gotten absolutely rinsed through the family court system because you got angry, entitled, petulant children walking around masquerading as an adult woman. As I've said in heaps of my other videos, women are just female children with a set of boobs. And I'm not talking about all of them, I'm talking about the majority though.
To maintain a healthy relationship, both people in that relationship should be able to reflect on what role they play in a certain situation, instead of just blaming the other person. It's very important to own the mistakes that contribute to your problem or cause problems for other people. Also, because you can't control what other people do. You can only control what you do. So if you're a man watching this, looking for a high quality woman, I would look for emotional maturity in relationship instead of superficial traits, which men are sometimes easily blinded by. Being able to be honest with yourself and being able to take criticism from others are very important skills in order to become more mature. But criticizing women for anything these days seems to be almost a crime, especially online or on TV. It's like we all...
Yeah, you're a misogynist. You're the patriarchy. Let me talk about another massive steaming pile of BS, especially in Australia now. I don't know if you viewers that watch overseas, internationally from other locations, we have a show here called Married at First Sight. And this show is basically they get a whole bunch of strangers, they pair them up and they have a fake wedding and then they're a married couple and it goes through their journey together. And obviously they get a whole bunch of dumpster fires, both male and female together, and it all blows up. If you can see some of the behaviour of some of the women on this show, and then how the media and how women in general, if you go on some Facebook groups or Reddit or something like that and read about them all supporting this absolutely toxic, childish behaviour from women that are 25, 35, 40 years old, you can understand why there's just no... What's the best way? Penalty for these women to act in a particular way. But then you get the guys there, and you might get a few flogs on that show, and they get ripped to shreds. You go to stupidnews.com.au website, and you read about it, and some guy is getting absolutely dragged across the coals because you said something, and he's a misogynist pig, and all this sort of stuff. What are your guys' thoughts? Did you guys watch that? I don't watch it, but I read the articles and I'm like, that's just a big double standard, isn't it? The misandry is fine, and misandry is widespread, especially in Australia. That's okay. Get these bra-burning chicks that are the journalists for news.com.au. They're promoting OnlyCans. They're promoting all sorts of filthy adult content and acts and toys. They write articles about them and encourage all that sort of behaviour. And then they'll rag out on dudes. But that's fine. Very, very interesting society we live in. I'm not sure if that's even widespread in other Western countries.
Always have to talk about women like they can't do anything wrong and they're always awesome or something, which is just not true. We're basically teaching women that criticism is a bad thing and that they're always entitled to be treated like a princess, even if they themselves treat other people badly. When an immature woman gets criticism, it contradicts with how she sees herself and how society sees her, as someone who never makes mistakes. The thing is though, there can be a lot of useful information in the criticism and feedback of others. At the end of the day,
no, but they can do no wrong, a lot of these chicks. And once again, I do touch on this topic quite a bit, but I had a lot of interactions with women. I was a serial womanizer. I've slept with lots of women. I've dealt with all the different personalities. And I can tell you now, 95% of them are basically, children with boobs. And that's why I say that. any sort of criticism, critique, suggestions, maybe pulling them up on something, you just can't do it. They'll just block and delete you. They'll just get rid of you. They cannot handle that. And that's good. They do you a favour. That's fine. Even if you don't agree with something when you're out on a date and you keep talking, and somehow, as we always do, women end up going political and start saying this and that and talking about, Elon and Trump and whatever else. Talking about things they probably don't even know about themselves, but they have a certain view because they read it on the news, and then that's their view. And you might say, well, why do you think that way? Oh, I don't agree with that for this particular reason. Gone, blocked, deleted. That's it, date over. Anyway, guys, I think I've had enough of this particular one. But as we know, guys, the real reason women don't grow up is because society does not require it from them. They're not held accountable for their actions for the most part. There's always a guy out there who's going to save the day. He's going to pick up the tab. He's going to erase a lifetime of bad decisions that they make when it comes to relationships. And the way it stands from a work perspective, there's always going to be a role. There's always going to be jobs for women because they need to get the numbers up. They need to get the representation up. And I won't get started on that. That'll be a topic for another day and maybe for my other channel. All right, guys. Thank you very much for watching once again. If you made it to the end, let me know. I always enjoy seeing those comments. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.